Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of his ship and watched the last human colony die. The screen in front of him showed nothing but empty space where New Geneva should have been. 3 million people had lived there just hours ago. Now, there was only dust and broken metal floating in the dark. "Sir, we're getting the final transmission from Proxima Base," said Lieutenant Sam Davis. His voice was quiet and scared. Jake had never heard Sam sound like this before. They had been through many battles together, but this was different. This was the end. The message crackled through the speakers. "This is Colonel Steve Murphy at Proxima Base. The Zephyrian ships are here. We can't hold them. Tell Earth we tried. Tell them we—" The message cut to static. Another colony was gone. Another 300,000 humans were dead. Jake looked around his bridge. His crew of 42 people stared at their screens with empty eyes. They had been running from system to system for 6 months, always arriving too late to help. The aliens were too fast and too many. Every human settlement outside Earth was being destroyed one by one. "Captain," said Navigation Officer Linda Hayes, "we have enough fuel to jump to one more system. Where do we go?" Jake knew there was nowhere left to go. The Kepler colonies were gone. The Vega settlements had been wiped out last week. The mining stations in the asteroid belts were nothing but metal and ice now. 17 star systems that humans had called home for over 200 years were empty. Only Earth remained. Dr. Lisa Grant looked up from her science station. She had been recording everything for the past 6 months. Every attack, every destroyed world, every final message from the dying colonies. "Jake, I've been studying their attack patterns. They're not just trying to beat us. They want to erase us completely." She was right. The Zephyrian Collective wasn't fighting a war. They were cleaning house. 12 different alien species had joined together to remove what they called the human problem. To them, humans were like bugs that needed to be stepped on. "They burn everything," Lisa continued. "Every building, every farm, every piece of art, or music or writing. They don't want any proof that we ever existed. In their minds, we are already extinct." Jake had seen the reports from other defense fleet ships. The aliens used weapons that turned entire cities to ash in seconds. They melted the polar ice on planets to flood any survivors. They even destroyed the satellites and space stations, so no one could send messages to other worlds. "Sir," said Communications Officer Paul Rogers, "I'm picking up transmissions from Earth. Admiral Clark wants all remaining ships to return home immediately." Home. Jake almost laughed. What was left of home? Earth was dying too. The oceans were poisoned from the last alien attack. Most of the big cities were ruins. The sky was still dark from all the smoke and dust in the air. Maybe 10 million people were left alive on the planet where 20 billion had lived just 2 years ago. But Earth was all they had left. "Set course for Earth," Jake ordered. "Maximum speed." As his ship jumped into hyperspace, Jake thought about his daughter Katie. She had been on New Geneva with her mother when the attack started. He would never see her again. He would never hold his wife Emma again. They were ash floating in space now, just like billions of other humans. The trip to Earth took 8 hours. When they dropped out of hyperspace, Jake saw a world he didn't recognize. The blue and green planet of his childhood was brown and gray now. Thick clouds covered everything. The lights of cities that had shone for centuries were dark. "This is Earth Defense Command," came a voice over the radio. "All ships report to Station Alpha for debriefing. Be advised, this is now our final stronghold." Station Alpha was a small space station that had been built to handle cargo ships. Now it was trying to coordinate the defense of humanity's last world. Jake could see 12 other defense fleet ships docked there. 12 ships out of the 300 that had defended human space just 6 months ago. Admiral Susan Clark met Jake in the station's main conference room. She looked like she had aged 10 years in the past month. Her uniform was dirty and her eyes were red from lack of sleep. "Jake, good to see you made it back," she said. "How many survivors did you pick up?" "None, Admiral. We were too late for every system. They're all gone." Admiral Clark nodded slowly. "Same report from every ship. The collective is very thorough. Our scouts estimate they destroyed 99% of human civilization in less Then 8 months. Jake sat down in a metal chair. Around the table were the captains of the other surviving ships. He recognized most of them. Commander Bob Turner from the heavy cruiser Liberty, Captain Nancy Green from the science vessel Explorer, Captain Rick Barnes from the patrol ship Falcon. Good people all, and now they were the last defenders of a dying species. "What's our situation on Earth?" asked Commander Turner. Admiral Clark activated a holographic display. "Not good. Most major cities are destroyed or abandoned. We have maybe 10 million people left, scattered in small settlements and underground bunkers. Food supplies will last 6 months if we're careful. Medical supplies are almost gone." Captain Green leaned forward. "What about the government? The president?" "President Martinez died in the attack on Washington. The vice president was killed when Chicago was hit. Secretary of Defense Williams is in command now, but he's in a bunker somewhere in the Rocky Mountains. We haven't heard from him in 3 weeks. The room was quiet. Jake could hear the hum of the station's air recyclers and the distant sound of repair crews working on damaged ships. These were the sounds of humanity's last days. "So what do we do?" Jake asked. Admiral Clark looked at each captain. "We survive. Somehow, some way we survive. Because if we don't, there will be nothing left to prove that humans ever existed in this galaxy." Outside the conference room windows, Earth turned slowly in space. Brown and broken and dying, but still turning, still fighting to live. 50 years had passed since the last Zephyrian ship left Earth's orbit. The aliens thought they had finished their job. They had watched the brown planet for 5 years, seen no signs of technology or large settlements, and declared the human species extinct. Their reports to the Galactic Council were clear. Another inferior race had been successfully eliminated. They were wrong. Dr. Ryan Hayes stood in the main laboratory of Haven City, 3 miles beneath what used to be Denver. The lab was bigger than most surface cities had been before the war. Rows of fusion reactors hummed quietly along the walls, each one producing more power than entire nations had used in the old days. Above his head, a massive dome of transparent aluminum held back millions of tons of rock and soil. Ryan was the grandson of Dr. Frank Hayes, who had been one of the first scientists to go underground after the attacks. Frank had died 20 years ago, but not before teaching Ryan everything he knew about alien technology. More importantly, he had taught Ryan to think like a human, not like an alien. "The Zephyrians made a mistake," Ryan said to his research team. "They assumed we would try to copy their technology exactly, but we don't think like they do." His assistant, Dr. Kelly Moore, looked up from her workstation. She was young, only 25, but she had never seen the surface world. Like most people her age, she had been born and raised in the underground cities. "The fusion output is up another 12%, she reported. "At this rate, we'll be producing twice as much power as a Zephyrian battleship." Ryan smiled. The aliens had powerful fusion reactors, but they were built for efficiency and reliability. Human reactors were built for raw power. While the Zephyrians worried about safety margins and proper procedures, humans pushed their technology to the absolute limit, and then pushed it further. Commander Amy Brooks walked into the lab wearing her training uniform. It was covered in sweat and had several small tears from combat practice. Amy commanded the New Earth Defense Force, an army of soldiers who had been trained for one specific job: fighting in zero gravity against technologically superior enemies. "Ryan, we need to talk," Amy said. "The council meeting is in an hour, and they want your report on the new ships." The council was made up of representatives from all 12 underground cities: Haven City, New Tokyo, Underground London, Subterra, Deep Chicago, Hidden Atlanta, Buried Phoenix, Lower Miami, Vault Seattle, Sunken Portland, Covered Dallas, and Fallen Boston. Each city specialized in different types of research and production. Together, they housed nearly 50 million people. Ryan gathered his data files and walked with Amy through the city's main corridor. The tunnel was wide enough for 6 vehicles to drive side by side and tall enough that aircraft could fly through it. The walls were lined with shops, restaurants, schools, and apartments. Children played in small parks built under artificial sunlight. Most of these people had never breathed real air or felt actual sunlight, but they were healthier and happier than humans had been on the surface. "How are the new recruits doing?" Ryan asked. Amy stretched her shoulders. She had been training soldiers for 30 years, ever since she was 25 herself. "Better than I expected. The kids who grew up down here have advantages we never had. They're not afraid of enclosed spaces. They can think in 3 dimensions naturally, and they don't panic when gravity changes." That was another thing the aliens hadn't counted on. Humans who lived underground learned to move through tight spaces and climb in any direction. When Amy's soldiers trained in zero gravity, they moved like they had been born in space. Zephyrian troops, who came from heavy gravity worlds, were clumsy and slow without weight to anchor them. They reached the council chambers, a circular room carved out of solid rock. Representatives from all 12 cities sat around a holographic table. The current council president was Dr. Linda Carter from New Tokyo. She had been elected because she understood both human engineering and alien psychology. "Ryan," Dr. Carter said, "please give us your report on the new starship designs." Ryan activated his presentation. A 3-dimensional image of a sleek spacecraft appeared above the table. It looked nothing like the angular, blocky ships the Zephyrians used. "This is the Phoenix-class cruiser," Ryan said. "It uses a hybrid drive system that combines human fusion technology with modified alien gravity manipulators. The result is a ship that can travel 3 times faster than anything in the Zephyrian fleet." Councilman Joe Martinez from Deep Chicago leaned forward. "What about stealth capabilities?" "That's the best part," Ryan replied. "The Phoenix is completely invisible to Zephyrian sensors. They look for specific energy signatures and metal compositions. Our ships use materials and power sources they've never seen before." Dr. Sarah Jackson from underground London raised her hand. "How many ships can we build?" "The first Phoenix is already complete and undergoing final tests. We can build 1 ship every 3 months using our current facilities. But I recommend we also start construction on the smaller Scout-class vessels. We can build 5 of those for every Phoenix." Amy stood up and activated her own presentation. The image changed to show soldiers in advanced combat armor moving through the corridors of a spaceship. "Our boarding teams are ready," Amy announced. "Every soldier has trained for over 1,000 hours in zero-G combat. They can cut through Zephyrian armor with handheld plasma weapons. More importantly, they can survive in environments that would kill any other species. This was humanity's secret advantage. While the aliens had conquered dozens of worlds, they had never learned to adapt to different environments. They needed specific atmospheric conditions, temperature ranges, and gravity levels to function. Humans could live almost anywhere and fight almost anywhere." Dr. Alex Turner from Vault Seattle activated his section of the presentation. "Our weapon systems are also ready. We've taken Zephyrian particle beams and improved their efficiency by 40%. Our missile systems use swarm tactics that their defense computers can't handle, and our electromagnetic pulse weapons can shut down their ships without destroying them." The room was quiet for a moment. These people had spent their entire lives preparing for this moment. Their parents had hidden underground and died in darkness so their children could have this chance. "When do we begin?" asked Councilwoman Helen Price from Buried Phoenix. Dr. Carter looked around the table. "Intelligence reports suggest the Zephyrians have started their next expansion phase. They're attacking the Centauri Alliance now. The galaxy thinks humanity is extinct, which means no one expects us to interfere." Ryan felt his heart beat faster. After 50 years of hiding, they were finally going to reveal themselves to the galaxy. But they wouldn't be returning as refugees or survivors begging for mercy. They would be returning as equals, or maybe something more than equals. "I propose we launch our first mission in 6 months," Dr. Carter continued. "A small fleet to establish our first off-world base in the Kepler Nebula. The Zephyrians avoid that region because the radiation interferes with their sensors. For us, it would be perfect." Amy smiled. "My soldiers are ready to go tomorrow if needed." Ryan nodded. "The Phoenix will be ready for its first interstellar flight in 4 months." Around the table, the other council members voiced their agreement. The vote was unanimous. Humanity would return to space, but this time, They would do it right. This time, they would be the ones doing the conquering. Captain Ben Parker felt the Phoenix-class cruiser New Dawn shift slightly as it dropped out of hyperspace. After 6 months of secret construction and testing, this was their first real mission into deep space. Ben had been chosen to command the ship because he understood both human determination and alien technology better than almost anyone alive. Position report, Ben called out to his navigation officer. Lieutenant Julie Adams checked her instruments carefully. We're in the Kepler Nebula, sir. Exactly where we plan to be. The radiation levels are high but within acceptable ranges for human physiology. Ben smiled. That was the first advantage they had discovered during their secret expansion. The Kepler Nebula was full of radiation that would kill most alien species within hours. For humans, it was just another uncomfortable environment to adapt to. Their underground cities had prepared them for much worse conditions. Any signs of alien activity? Ben asked his sensor operator. Negative, sir, replied Ensign Mike Chen. The nebula is interfering with long-range scans just like we expected. If there are any Zephyrian ships within 50 light-years of here, we can't detect them. More importantly, they can't detect us either. Dr. Chris Reed looked up from his science station. As the expedition's chief scientist, Chris was responsible for finding suitable planets for human colonization. He had spent the past 3 years studying star charts and planetary surveys, looking for worlds that other species had rejected as uninhabitable. Captain, I'm detecting 17 planetary systems within the nebula. Most of them have been marked as unsuitable for life by previous alien surveys. High radiation, toxic atmospheres, extreme temperatures, or unusual gravity. Perfect, Ben replied. Let's go take a look at the most unsuitable one first. This was humanity's new strategy. Instead of competing with other species for the best worlds, they would take the worlds that nobody else wanted. Planets with acid rain, methane atmospheres, crushing gravity, or deadly radiation were perfect for humans who had learned to survive anything. The New Dawn moved deeper into the nebula, its advanced stealth systems keeping it invisible to any potential observers. The ship itself was a masterpiece of human engineering. It combined the best features of Zephyrian technology with human innovations that the aliens had never considered. Sir, I'm getting detailed scans of the third planet in the Kepler 442 system, Chris reported. Surface temperature averages minus 40 degrees Celsius. Atmosphere is 70% nitrogen, 20% oxygen, 10% various toxic gases. Gravity is 1.3 times Earth normal. Previous surveys marked it as completely uninhabitable. Ben studied the data on his command screen. What do you think, Chris? Could we build a colony there? Chris grinned. It would be like living in underground cities, except on the surface. The toxic gases would require breathing masks for extended periods outside. But our air filtration systems can handle that easily. The cold is nothing compared to what people deal with in deep Chicago. And the heavy gravity would actually be good for physical conditioning. Commander Amy Brooks had come along on this mission to assess the military potential of any worlds, they discovered. She had brought a team of 50 elite soldiers to serve as the foundation for the colony's defense force. From a tactical standpoint, it's ideal, Amy said. Any alien force trying to attack that world would be operating under severe environmental stress. Our people would have all the advantages. Ben made his decision. Set course for Kepler 442c. We're going to establish humanity's first secret colony. The landing took place 3 days later. The New Dawn entered the planet's atmosphere during a massive storm that would have grounded any alien ship. For the human crew, it was just another challenging weather pattern to navigate through. The colony site was chosen in a valley between 2 mountain ranges, where the natural geography would provide protection from the worst of the planet's environmental hazards. Within hours of landing, the crew had begun construction of the first permanent human settlement outside Earth in over 50 years. Julie Adams supervised the construction of the colony's main habitat dome. The structure was designed to expand as more people arrived, eventually housing up to 50,000 colonists. The foundation is solid, she reported. The building materials we brought from Earth are holding up perfectly in this environment. Dr. Chris Reed established his research laboratory in a cave system that extended deep underground. "Captain, this is amazing. The planet has mineral deposits that don't exist anywhere else in known space. If we can learn to process these materials, we could build technologies that surpass anything the Zephyrians have." Over the following months, more ships arrived from Earth. Each one carried 1,000 colonists and enough supplies to expand the settlement. The ships used different routes and arrival times to avoid detection, but they all made it safely through the nebula. Commander Amy Brooks trained the colonists in survival techniques and combat skills. Every person on the planet, from children to elderly, learned how to fight and how to hide. "We're not just building a colony," she told them during training sessions. "We're building a fortress that can protect itself from any threat." The colony grew rapidly. Within 2 years, New Terra had a population of 20,000 people and was completely self-sufficient. They grew their own food in underground hydroponic gardens, manufactured their own equipment in automated factories, and even began building their own spacecraft in orbital shipyards. But New Terra was just the beginning. Intelligence reports from Earth indicated that humanity was establishing colonies throughout the galaxy, all in locations that other species considered worthless. The Titan Nebula, the Horsehead Nebula, the Crab Nebula, and dozens of other regions marked as uninhabitable were secretly being transformed into human strongholds. Captain Danny Foster arrived at New Terra aboard the second Phoenix-class ship, the Rising Star. He brought news from the other colonies and orders from the Underground Council. "New Geneva 2 is operational," Danny reported to Ben and the other colony leaders. "They've got 30,000 people and 3 orbital defense platforms. New Proxima is up to 15,000 people and they've started mining operations on 6 different asteroids. New Kepler has 40,000 people, and they've begun manufacturing their own warships." Ben was amazed by the scope of humanity's expansion. "How many colonies are we establishing?" "Current count is 47 systems with established settlements," Danny replied. "Another 20 systems have advanced teams preparing colony sites. The Underground Council estimates we'll have populations in over 100 systems within 10 years. Dr. Chris Reed had been analyzing data from all the colonies. "Captain, we're seeing something remarkable. Humans aren't just surviving in these hostile environments. We're thriving. Our population growth rates are higher than they ever were on Earth. Our technology development is accelerating. It's like adversity makes us stronger." This was something the Zephyrians had never understood about humans. While other species avoided challenges and sought comfortable environments, humans actually performed better under stress. The more difficult their situation became, the more creative and determined they were in finding solutions. Amy Brooks had been coordinating military preparations across all the colonies. Every settlement now has a trained defense force and orbital weapons platforms. We're also building mobile strike forces that can move between systems if any colony is threatened. In 5 years, we'll have the strongest military in the galaxy. Ben looked out through the habitat dome at the harsh landscape of New Terra. The storms were raging again, with winds that would kill any alien species. But human children were playing in the storm, wearing protective gear and laughing as they chased each other through the acid rain. "How long before the aliens discover us?" Ben asked. Danny shrugged. "Intelligence estimates 5 to 10 years before they stumble across one of our colonies, but by then we'll be ready for them, more than ready." The meeting ended with plans to establish 10 more colonies in the next year. Each one would be built in an environment that aliens considered impossible to live in. Each one would be a fortress capable of defending itself and supporting the others. As Ben watched the ships prepare to leave New Terra for their next destinations, he realized that humanity was no longer hiding underground waiting to die. They were building an empire among the stars, and when they were finally discovered, the galaxy would learn that reports of humanity's extinction had been greatly exaggerated. Admiral Kethvar of the Zephyrian Third Fleet had been patrolling the outer regions of the galaxy for 20 years, without finding anything more interesting than empty space and dead rocks. His mission was routine: check the systems that previous surveys had marked as uninhabitable and make sure no hostile species had established bases there. The Vega system was supposed to be particularly useless. High radiation levels, unstable stellar activity, and 3 planets that were either frozen solid or burning hot. No intelligent species would waste time trying to settle there. That was why the massive energy readings coming from Vega 4 made no sense at all. Commander Zethtal, confirm those sensor readings, Kethvar ordered his science officer. The bridge of the battleship Dominion was filled with the quiet hum of efficient alien technology and the soft glow of holographic displays. Confirmed, Admiral, Zethtal replied. Multiple fusion reactors operating at maximum output, industrial manufacturing signatures, defensive weapon platforms. And sir, I'm detecting population levels consistent with a major colonial settlement. Kethvar studied the data with growing confusion. According to their records, no member of the Galactic Council had authorization to establish colonies in this system. More importantly, no known species had technology capable of surviving in the Vega system's radiation environment. Are we detecting any communication signals? Kethvar asked. Yes, sir, but they're using encryption methods we don't recognize. The linguistic patterns are also unfamiliar. Sir, I don't think this is a council species. This was exactly what Kethvar had been trained to watch for. Unknown alien species were considered potential threats to galactic stability. His standing orders were clear: investigate, identify, and if necessary, eliminate any unauthorized colonization efforts. Take us in for a closer look, Kethvar commanded. Battle stations. We don't know what we're dealing with. As the Dominion moved closer to Vega 4, the sensor readings became even more disturbing. The planet's surface was covered with cities, industrial complexes, and what appeared to be military installations. The population estimates kept climbing: 5 million, 8 million, 12 million inhabitants. Admiral, Zethtal said quietly, I'm analyzing the architectural patterns and technology signatures. Sir, this looks familiar. Kethvar felt a chill run through his scaled skin. Familiar how? The fusion reactor designs, the city layouts, the industrial signatures. Admiral, these match the patterns we studied in school. From the species elimination project 50 years ago. The bridge fell silent. Every officer present had learned about the human elimination campaign as part of their basic military education. It had been held up as an example of successful galactic security operations. The humans had been a young species that was expanding too rapidly and asking too many questions about council policies. The decision to eliminate them had been unanimous among all 12 council species. That's impossible, Kethvar said. The humans were completely eliminated. We monitored their homeworld for 5 years after the operation. There were no survivors. But as the Dominion continued its scan of Vega 4, the evidence became undeniable. The cities below were built in human architectural styles. The industrial facilities used human manufacturing techniques. The orbital platforms were clearly human designs, though much more advanced than anything humans had possessed 50 years ago. Sir, the communications officer called out. We're being hailed by the planet. Kethvar straightened in his command chair. On screen, the main view screen activated, showing the face of a human female wearing what appeared to be a military uniform. Behind her, Kethvar could see a command center filled with human officers working at advanced control stations. I am Commander Julie Adams of the New Terra Colonial Defense Force, the human said calmly. You are in restricted space, Zephyrian. Vessel, state your business here. Kethvar stared at the screen in shock. Not only were humans still alive, but they were speaking with the confidence of equals rather than the fear of a conquered species. And what was that about restricted space? Humans had no authority to restrict anything. I am Admiral Kethvar of the Zephyrian Third Fleet, he replied. This system is unoccupied according to council records. You have no legal right to be here. Commander, Adams smiled, and there was something in that smile that made Kethvar very uncomfortable. Admiral, your council records are 50 years out of date. This system has been under human control for 8 years. We have 12 million citizens here, full industrial capability, and enough defensive firepower to protect our interests. Impossible, Kethvar said. Humans are extinct. The elimination operation was completely successful. Reports of our extinction were greatly exaggerated, Adams replied. Would you like to speak with our diplomatic representative? Or should we continue this conversation through military channels? Before Kethavar could respond, his tactical officer called out in alarm. Admiral, I'm detecting multiple ships approaching our position. They're not showing on sensors until they're right on top of us. The main screen split to show both Commander Adams and a tactical display. Surrounding the Dominion were 6 human warships that had appeared seemingly out of nowhere. They were sleek, fast-looking vessels that didn't match any design in the Zephyrian military database. Those are Phoenix-class cruisers, Adams explained helpfully. Stealth capability, advanced. Weapon systems 3 times faster than your current ship. I should mention that we have 47 colonies throughout the galaxy, each defended by similar fleets. Kethavar felt his military confidence evaporating rapidly. 47 colonies? 47 established settlements, with another 30 under construction. We've been very busy during our supposed extinction. Now, Admiral, I believe you have a choice to make. You can report back to your council that humanity has returned to galactic civilization, or you can try to repeat the mistakes of 50 years ago. I should warn you that we're much better prepared now. The Admiral looked around his bridge at his officers. They all had the same expression of shock and growing fear. The humans weren't just alive. They had somehow become more technologically advanced than the species that had tried to eliminate them. What do you want? Kethavar asked. For now, we want you to leave our space and carry a message to the Galactic Council. Tell them that humanity requests a formal meeting to discuss the new realities of galactic politics. The location and time will be announced through diplomatic channels. Back on Earth, President Ellen Ross received the news in her office deep beneath the ruins of Washington, D.C. The woman who had spent 30 years preparing for this moment showed no emotion as she listened to the report from New Terra. So they found us, she said to her advisors. Earlier than we expected, but we're ready. Defense Minister Kate Sullivan looked up from her tactical displays. All colonies have been notified and are prepared for possible retaliation attempts. Our mobile fleets are in position to respond to any aggressive moves by Council forces. Foreign Minister Tony Clark had been practicing for this moment his entire adult life. The diplomatic message has been prepared and is ready for transmission to all 12 Council species. Do we proceed with full revelation? President Ross stood and walked to the large map showing all of humanity's secret colonies. Red dots marked 47 established settlements scattered across the galaxy, each one located in an environment that other species considered uninhabitable. Send the message, she said. It's time for humanity to officially return to galactic civilization. Within hours, the message was transmitted to the homeworlds of all 12 Council species. The content was simple and direct. Humanity had survived, grown strong, and established itself as a major galactic power. They requested immediate diplomatic recognition and a reorganization of the Galactic Council to include human representation. The reactions were swift and varied. Some species, like the peaceful Arcturians, welcomed the return of humanity and expressed regret over the previous elimination attempt. Others, particularly the Zephyrians, saw humanity's survival as a threat to their dominant position in galactic affairs. But the most important reaction came from the hundreds of species that were not members of the Council. For 50 years, they had lived in fear of the 12 dominant powers that controlled galactic civilization. Now, suddenly, there was proof that even the Council's genocide campaigns could be survived and overcome. Captain Danny Foster commanded the starship Rising, Phoenix, as it approached the neutral system where the emergency council session would take place. As humanity's chief diplomatic representative, Danny would be the first human to address the Galactic Council in over 50 years. Are you ready for this? Asked his second-in-command, Commander Lisa Thompson. Danny looked out at the massive space station where representatives from across the galaxy were gathering, ready as anyone can be to tell the galaxy's rulers that their victims refuse to stay dead. The Phoenix docked at the station, and Danny prepared to step into a new chapter of galactic history. Humanity was no longer hiding in the shadows. They were ready to take their place among the stars, whether the existing powers liked it or not. The emergency council session was held aboard Harmony Station, a massive space structure that had been neutral ground for galactic diplomacy for over 3 centuries. Representatives from all 12 council species sat around a circular chamber that could hold thousands of delegates. Today it also held something that should have been impossible: a living human. Captain Danny Foster walked into the chamber wearing the dress uniform of the New Earth Defense Force. Behind him came Ambassador Tony Clark and a small team of human diplomats. The chamber fell silent as species that had celebrated humanity's extinction 50 years ago stared at the evidence of their failure. Council Speaker Velthar, a tall being from the ancient Rigel Confederation, called the session to order. We are here to address the impossible return of a species that was officially eliminated from galactic records. Captain Foster, you may present humanity's position. Danny stepped forward to the central speaking platform. He had practiced this speech for years, but now that the moment had arrived, he felt the weight of representing 50 million humans scattered across 47 secret colonies. Honorable representatives, Danny began. 50 years ago, you decided that humanity was a problem that needed to be solved. You were correct. We were a problem. We asked inconvenient questions about why the galaxy was controlled by only 12 species out of thousands. We wanted to expand and grow and explore, just like you did when your species were young. We believed that all intelligent life deserved equal representation in galactic affairs. Admiral Kethvar, who had been invited to testify about his discovery of New Terra, watched from the observer section. The confident human addressing the council was nothing like the desperate survivors his grandfather had fought 50 years ago. You solved your problem by trying to eliminate us completely, Danny continued. Every human colony was destroyed. Every city was burned. Every piece of human art, literature, and history was erased. You thought you had succeeded. You were wrong. Ambassador Felketh of the Zephyrian Collective rose from his seat. The elimination operation was completely successful. Our monitoring showed no survivors on Earth. No ships escaped. No colonies remained operational. Danny smiled. Your monitoring was inadequate. While you watched the surface of Earth, 10 million humans survived in underground cities. While you celebrated our extinction, we were studying your technology, learning your weaknesses, and preparing for our return. The chamber erupted in shocked conversations as representatives realized the implications. If humans had survived and remained hidden for 50 years, what else might they have accomplished? The current situation is simple, Danny announced. Humanity now controls 47 star systems with a combined population of over 50 million people. We have industrial capabilities that exceed most council species. We have military technology that surpasses anything currently in use by galactic powers. And we have done all of this in environments that you consider uninhabitable. Dr. Helen Price, Earth's Minister of Galactic Affairs, stood up from the human delegation. She activated a holographic display that showed the locations of all human colonies throughout the galaxy. Every red dot represents a thriving human settlement, she said. As you can see, we have avoided competing with your species for habitable worlds. Instead, we have claimed the systems you rejected as worthless. High-radiation nebulae, toxic atmospheric planets, extreme gravity worlds, and unstable star systems. We have turned your unwanted territories into the foundation of a new, galactic power. The implications were staggering. For decades, the council species had avoided certain regions of space because they were too dangerous or difficult to colonize. Now they learned that those same regions were filled with human settlements. Ambassador Theknal of the Procyon Empire asked the question everyone was thinking. What do you want from us? Danny looked around the chamber at the representatives of species that had tried to murder his entire race. Justice, he said simply, and guarantees that no other species will face what we faced. The chamber fell silent again. Council Speaker Velthar leaned forward in his seat. Explain. The Galactic Council will be reorganized, Tony Clark announced, stepping forward with a formal document. Representation will be based on population, territory, and economic contribution, rather than historical dominance. Every species with interstellar capability will have a voice in galactic governance. Admiral Zethkova of the Altair Naval Command stood up angrily. Unacceptable. The current system has maintained peace for over 1,000 years. Your system has maintained the dominance of 12 species over thousands of others, Danny replied. That ends now. The galaxy will be governed by consent of the governed, not by the threat of extinction. Ambassador Velketh activated his own holographic display, showing the positions of Zephyrian fleets throughout the galaxy. And if we refuse your demands, humanity may have survived, but you are still vastly outnumbered. The human delegation exchanged glances, and Danny nodded to his communications officer. Within seconds, new holographic displays appeared throughout the chamber. They showed human fleets emerging from stealth in 12 different star systems simultaneously. Those are our mobile strike forces, Helen Price explained calmly. Each one is positioned near a council homeworld. We're not outnumbered, Admiral. We're distributed. And we have tactical advantages you can't match. The demonstration was perfect timing. As the council representatives watched in shock, human ships appeared and disappeared like ghosts, moving faster than anything in the council databases and remaining invisible to sensors until they chose to reveal themselves. Captain Sarah Williams, commanding the stealth cruiser Shadow Strike near the Zephyrian homeworld, sent a brief message that was displayed on the chamber's main screen. All council military installations are currently targeted. Human forces are ready to enforce diplomatic solutions. The room filled with urgent conversations as representatives contacted their home governments. The balance of power in the galaxy had shifted in a matter of hours, and everyone was struggling to understand the new reality. Council Speaker Velthar called for order. What guarantees do we have that humanity will not use these capabilities aggressively? Ambassador Tony Clark stepped forward with another document. The Charter for Galactic Peace and Cooperation. It establishes principles of non-interference, mutual defense, and shared governance. Any species that signs the Charter receives protection from extinction campaigns and equal representation in the new Galactic Assembly. And species that refuse to sign? Asked Ambassador Velketh. Danny's expression hardened. Will be treated as hostile to galactic peace and stability. We learned from your example 50 years ago. Sometimes force is the only language that aggressors understand. Over the following days, representatives returned to their homeworlds to consult with their governments. The responses varied dramatically. Species like the Centaurians and Vega colonies, who had always been secondary powers under the council system, immediately signed the charter and welcomed human leadership. The Zephyrian collective initially refused, mobilizing their fleets for what they hoped would be a quick, decisive war against the upstart humans. The war lasted exactly 6 hours. Human stealth ships disabled every major Zephyrian military installation simultaneously, while human diplomats offered generous surrender terms that allowed the Zephyrians to maintain their territorial integrity, in exchange for accepting the new galactic order. Within 6 months, 43 species had signed the charter. The old Galactic Council was dissolved and replaced by the Galactic Assembly, where representation was proportional to population and economic contribution. Humanity, with 50 million citizens and the galaxy's most advanced technology, became the largest single voting bloc. Dr. Chris Reed, now serving as Earth's science minister, established the Galactic Research Initiative, which shared human innovations in terraforming, radiation resistance, and adaptive technology with any species willing to cooperate. Worlds that had been considered uninhabitable for millions of years suddenly became potential homes for dozens of different species. Commander Amy Brooks, promoted to General of Galactic Defense Forces, created the first truly integrated military in galactic history. Human officers served alongside former enemies, teaching alien troops how to fight in extreme environments while learning new tactics from species with entirely different approaches to warfare. The transformation wasn't immediate or easy. Some species resented human leadership and attempted rebellions that were quickly suppressed. Others struggled to adapt to the new reality of shared power and mutual cooperation. But within 5 years, The galaxy had become more peaceful and prosperous than it had been in centuries. President Ellen Ross, now serving as the first Secretary General of the Galactic Assembly, stood on the observation deck of the new assembly, headquarters orbiting Earth. Through the transparent aluminum windows, she could see the blue and green world that had nearly died 50 years ago. The oceans were clear again, the cities were rebuilt, and the sky was filled with ships from dozens of different species. "Do you think they understand what they created when they tried to destroy us?" asked Tony Clark, who had become her chief advisor.